Hey guys, so now we're going to talk about conclusions. We looked at body paragraphs, we looked at introductions. Now, how do we wrap this thing up? And a conclusion, just like an introduction, is so important because where your intro sets the stage, your conclusion leaves it, right? And so it can either completely destroy your essay or potentially redeem it, right? The issue that I have with conclusions is I just don't feel like there is a formulaic approach that I can give you where I can say, like I did with intros and body paragraphs, like, hey, as long as you do these things, you're going to have all the stuff you need for your conclusion. It doesn't really work that way because different conclusions require different approaches. Like you might need to do a call to action, you might need to give a prediction, you might need to write a summary. So there's different ways that you can do this. So if you are an entry-level writer, on my website I have a little template for how you could potentially set up a pretty solid basic level summary. But if you're a college level writer, I think what you need instead is some advice for here's some stuff to think about while you're writing your conclusions. So the first thing to think about is doing something at the beginning worth coming back to in the end. And this is super duper important. In fact, probably the most important thing that I'm going to tell you. If you do something in your intro that is good and solid, use that as a way to tell people, hey, now I am concluding. Like you have a really solid quote at the beginning, start with that quote and then come back to that quote. You reuse it and people will know, hey, this sounds familiar. This probably is something that he's coming back to, right? Or if you did a really solid like painting of a picture, some kind of like description as your hook, like you drew us a picture of some kind of setting and you use that to bring us in, like start your story there, start your anecdote, but don't finish it in your introduction. Go into the meat of your essay and then come back with the end of that story at the end. You don't have to say in conclusion, people are going to know that you're wrapping up. I saw this executed super duper well my entire life growing up because my dad was a pastor and I would see him do this every single Sunday where he would get up, he would start some kind of story that would bring us into the topic he was going to address, but then he wouldn't finish it. He would then go into the points he wants to address that had to do with the story, was kind of like the springboard for that. And then at the very end, he would start telling that story again. Okay. He never said he was about to wrap up, but as soon as I heard him doing that as a kid, like I immediately knew we're about to go get some lunch because it's about to wrap up, right? Because I knew he started the story, now he's ending the story, he's coming back to it, right? So do something in the beginning worth coming back to, and that saves you having to say like in conclusion or something that is like trite like that. Something else, you could do some kind of like exemplifying quote. So maybe you had a really good quote at the beginning, but you don't want to use it again. So you find a quote that really wraps up the main thing you're trying to hammer home, lead in with that, and then use that to hammer home the point that you're trying to make. Looking for those like broader implications of your argument. Like here is the main point that we're trying to make here. Like I said, you can do a call to action, you can do a prediction, and you can also write a solid summary. Just look at what is going to feed the purposes of your essay best, do something worth coming back to, and then close it out. Okay. That's the best advice that I can give you for conclusion, but I'll go ahead and throw this out there as well. Once you've gotten to that point, you're really not done. Okay. Once you do a conclusion, you are at the point where you are ready to edit. Okay. So edit and edit and edit again. My best advice for you is write it early so you can set it aside for a few days so it's not fresh in your mind, and then come back to it and either read it out loud or have somebody else read it out loud, because your brain is a magical thing and it's going to fill in the mistakes that you made for you. But if you hear it actually said, you're going to catch those errors. So what I do every single time I turn in an essay, which like I said is every week for me, I actually have my Chromebook or my computer or my phone read the text to me using the text to talk feature. And so if you don't know how to do that, reach out to me and I will show you how to do it. And hearing that kind of robotic sound makes it feel distant enough for me that I hear the mistakes that I would not have otherwise heard. So editing, huge way to end. Okay. Hopefully this gives you a good idea of what you're going to be doing in this class. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out. And as always, have a great day, make wise decisions, and Merry Christmas.